Hey guys, welcome to our second crash recap. For today's crash, we're going to be discussing why you should not try to land your drone on railings and just small, narrow surfaces. We're going to discuss what the hazards are, why you shouldn't do it, and how this crash happened. Let's get into it. So to start this video off, I'd like to discuss a little bit about what I used to do, the methods I used to use to take off and land versus how I do stuff now. When I started out, I used to use a landing pad all the time. It's a big fold-out landing pad. If you look up in the corner here, you'll see a picture of it. Well, this landing pad folds up real small when you're not using it. When you use it, pops open. You got a big, giant landing pad. If you look up here, you'll see the same picture, but with size references on it. You'll see my DJI Mini 3 Pro in the middle. You'll see a Galaxy S9 Plus cell phone on the side of it, so you can see what the size of the landing pad itself is. Well, I used to use the landing pad all the time. After about a month, I stopped using it. There is a couple exceptions. If I'm hired to do a job, I try to still use it when I can, especially if I'm stationary. And I also try to use the landing pad in fields with high grass. It works really well. You stomp the grass down, put the landing pad over it, put the stakes in on each side to hold it down, and it holds the grass out of the way so you have a place to land and take off, because otherwise the grass will destroy the props. That's how I used to do my landings and my takeoffs. It worked really well. It was great to start out with, especially when you're not skilled, not experienced with the drone. It's a lot easier to keep both hands on the controls at all times and makes things a lot simpler. So right here's a video of how I take off now. I hold the drone in my hand, push on the controllers for it to take off once all the checks are done, and the drone takes off on its own, goes up above, and then it flies. And here's a video of how I land now. Put my hand up, kind of flat like this, bring the drone down. Once the drone comes down to about 2 feet off of where you're landing from, it goes into landing mode and the camera goes up, the drone starts to hover in place and slowly descends. When it does that, you do still have some control over it, but the controls left, right, front, and back are very negligible. They don't do a lot. It's just slight movements. Instead, as you'll see in the video, I can reach up and I can grab it as it comes down and hold it in place, making sure it doesn't go all over the place, crash, flip over, anything like that. So now that you guys have seen how I did stuff before originally with the landing pad and how I take off and land now with my hand usually, let's discuss what happened that day. I went up, I was flying out back by my apartment, just practicing a little bit, just getting some flight time in. And when I did so, I came down and my wife was standing outside with me. My son was standing in the doorway, and I thought, why not show off a little bit? So I saw the railing to our porch and I thought, well, why not land on the railing to the porch? Seemed like a good idea. I knew it was wide enough. I knew if I turned the drone so that it was facing outwards and landed it down on the porch, it should fit perfectly onto the porch railing. However, I also know, because of countless landings and takeoffs before, that the drone is not super steady when it lands and takes off. I've never missed the landing pad when I did use it, but it's not always even on the H. Sometimes it's out by the edge of the landing pad. So I should have known better. I didn't. Instead, I attempted to land on that railing. As you'll see right here is a picture of the railing. And I tried to land on this railing, and it didn't work so well. Instead, the drone moved a little bit over. 2 of the arms and props caught the railing, flipped the drone upside down. The drone went down about a story and landed on the pavement. The drone was completely undamaged, but you see this picture here, you can see over the edge there where the pavement is. I do have a really thin utility type rug carpet on it, but it didn't do much. But in the end, the drone is pretty sturdy, and the drone did survive perfectly fine. So let's discuss what went wrong. Besides the fact that, obviously, stupidity, and if you look up here, you'll see the word dumbass and its definition. Definitely on this day, the definition should have been crossed out and had my name on it. There's no reason to be acting like that with a drone. It was just showing off. I don't even know why, because she's already my wife, so I had no reason to show off for her. But it's just showing off. You really shouldn't do that. You got to be careful at all times. You got to be aware. It could have damaged the drone. It could have flipped the other way, and it could have hit her or me or my son. Now, that was very unlikely. They were 10 feet away, but it still could have happened. You got to be careful with it. Someone could have been underneath the porch. They shouldn't have been. They don't belong there. But still, that someone could have been standing under the porch, and the drone could have hit them and hurt them in some way. The good news is it is a small drone. It's under 250. It's got plastic, small props. I've stuck my fingers in the props. It doesn't even really hurt. But it's still, you got to be careful with the drone. You got to be careful of what you're doing. And you got to not try to show off with the drone. Drones can do a lot of cool stuff and a lot of stuff that's against the laws. And if you're not careful, you're going to get yourself in trouble doing that. So just keep that in mind, guys. Always be responsible. Always pay attention to detail. Consider what you're doing. Think about it before you do it. And don't do stuff just to show off with the drones. I hope this has been fun. If you guys want to see the next one, like and subscribe. And I'll catch you guys later.